My name is Emily, and last year I learned the hardest lesson of my life. Sometimes the people you expect to stand by you, the people you love, the ones you drop everything for, are the same people who can vanish when you need them most. I'm not talking about friends, co-workers, or distant relatives. I'm talking about my own family. People who raised me. The ones I thought would be there no matter what. But on the night I almost died, I was forced to face an unbearable truth. I was completely on my own. It all started on a rainy Friday evening, the night that changed everything. I was born into what most people would call a normal family. My parents, Robert and Diane, were the type who lived for appearances. Perfect house, perfect Christmas cards, perfect social media posts. I was the middle child, sandwiched between my brother Ryan and my younger sister Lily. And if you've ever been a middle child, you probably already know how this story goes. Ryan, the oldest, was the golden boy. Star quarterback, class president, scholarship offers. Every time he walked into a room, my parents' eyes lit up like fireworks. They bragged about him constantly. His grades, his football trophies, his summer internships. He was everything they ever wanted in a son. Then came Lily, the baby of the family. She was sweet, funny, a little spoiled. But she never had to lift a finger because everyone adored her. She'd pout, and my parents would bend over backwards to make her happy. And then there was me, Emily. I wasn't a troublemaker. I wasn't lazy. I worked hard, studied harder, and did my best to stay out of everyone's way. But in my family, being quiet and dependable didn't earn you love. It earned you invisibility. Birthdays were always a reminder. For Ryan, my parents would throw huge parties with his entire football team, balloons and banners. For Lily, there were princess cakes, pony rides, even spa days once she hit her teens. For me, a store-bought cupcake, sometimes just a card. One year, they even forgot completely until my grandmother reminded them. Hurt, deeply. But I swallowed it down year after year, telling myself, that's just how it is. Some kids get the spotlight. Others don't. When I graduated college and became a nurse, I thought maybe things would change. After all, I had worked my way through school, juggling late-night shifts and endless exams. I was saving lives, wasn't I? Surely that was something worth being proud of. But while Ryan's new promotion at a corporate job got an entire family dinner in his honor, my graduation barely earned a mention. My parents didn't even post a photo. I told myself it didn't matter. I was independent now. I had my own tiny apartment, my own car, my own life. I didn't need their approval anymore. Still, there's a part of you deep down that always craves it, that hopes if something truly awful ever happened, your family would come running. That's what family is supposed to do, right? Transition. The night of the accident begins. That belief was shattered on March 26th. It was a Friday night, and I had just finished a 14-hour shift at the hospital. My body ached, my eyes burned, and I was running on fumes. But I told myself, just 10 more minutes. Just get home, shower, and collapse into bed. The rain that night was relentless. The kind of downpour that makes the world blur into streaks of gray and black. My windshield wipers thrashed back and forth, struggling to keep up. I turned onto Maple Avenue, the same road I'd driven hundreds of times before. I remember gripping the steering wheel tighter, blinking hard to fight the exhaustion. And then, in an instant, everything changed. A massive truck ran the red light at the intersection. I didn't even have time to scream. The impact was violent. Metal crunched, glass shattered, and my little Honda Civic spun like a toy. My body slammed against the seatbelt so hard I felt something crack in my ribs. When the car finally stopped, it was upside down. The world was silent except for the hiss of the rain and the drip, drip of gasoline. Pain radiated through my chest. My head throbbed where it had slammed against the window. I could taste blood in my mouth. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone. Somehow, by sheer miracle, I managed to unlock it and dial 911. The operator's voice was calm and steady. Help is on the way. Stay with me, Emily. Keep talking to me. Minutes felt like hours. My vision blurred, but I forced myself to stay awake. I thought about my patients, about how many times I'd told them to hold on. Now it was my turn. Finally, the red and blue lights pierced through the rain. The paramedics pulled me from the wreckage, strapping me to a stretcher, their voices professional yet kind. You're going to be okay. We've got you. But as the ambulance doors closed, one thought consumed me. Where's my family? Who's going to meet me at the hospital? Who's going to hold my hand? The hospital arrival. The ambulance rushed me to St. Mary's, the same hospital where I worked. Everything felt surreal, being wheeled into the ER not as a nurse but as a patient. My co-workers' faces blurred past me. Someone held my hand, telling me I'd need x-rays, maybe surgery. I nodded, barely processing. My chest burned with every breath. My head pounded. But even through the pain, all I wanted was one thing, to see my family walk through those doors. I gave the nurse my mom's number. Please, I whispered, my voice cracked and weak. Call her. Tell her I need her. She squeezed my hand and promised she would. And so I waited. Minutes turned to hours. Nurses came and went, checking my vitals, giving me pain meds. Doctors explained that I had 2 cracked ribs, a concussion, and needed to be monitored overnight. But every time the door opened, my heart leapt, only to sink again when it was just another nurse or tech. No mom, no dad, no Ryan, no Lily. Just me, alone. The clock on the wall ticked louder than my heartbeat. Every passing minute felt like a reminder. They still aren't here. I stared at the hospital ceiling, my body aching, chest wrapped tightly in bandages. Each breath felt like knives in my ribs. The concussion made the room spin, but the pain in my heart was worse. My phone buzzed on the tray beside me. Relief surged through me. Finally, my family must be on their way. I grabbed it, wincing, and opened the screen. It wasn't a text from Mom, or Dad, or even Lily. It was the family group chat. And they weren't asking if I was okay. They were posting selfies from a fancy Italian restaurant. Smiling, laughing, plates of pasta and glasses of wine filling the table. The caption under my sister's photo read, "Best family dinner ever. Love you guys so much." I blinked at the screen, trying to make sense of it. Maybe they didn't know yet. Maybe the hospital hadn't reached them. But then, just as my chest tightened with hope, I saw it. A message from my mom. Emily was in an accident. Hospital called. And then, nothing. No, we're on our way. No, is she okay? No, which hospital? Just silence. Followed by more photos of desserts, wine glasses clinking, Ryan's arm draped proudly around Lily as they laughed together. I felt the air leave my lungs. Not from the cracked ribs this time, but from a realization so sharp it cut deeper than any injury. They knew. They knew I was in the hospital, and they stayed at dinner. Tears stung my eyes as I typed into the group chat with shaking fingers. I'm in the ER. Where are you? Waited. The 3 little dots appeared, then vanished. Appeared again. My heart raced. Finally, Ryan replied. We'll check on you tomorrow. It's Lily's big night. I reread the message 3 times, hoping I'd misunderstood. But no, it was crystal clear. Lily's big night, her celebration dinner with friends, mattered more than me lying in a hospital bed, bruised, broken, and alone. I wanted to scream, but my body was too weak, and my voice cracked into nothing. The night dragged on like a cruel test of endurance. Nurses came and went, their kindness a stark contrast to the silence from my own family. One of them, Jenna, sat with me for a while. She held my hand when the pain got bad and whispered, I don't know what's wrong with your family, but you're not alone tonight. You've got us. Her words broke me. Not because she pitied me, but because it was true. The strangers in scrubs cared more than the people who shared my blood. At one point around midnight, I opened Facebook out of sheer habit. My feed loaded with fresh photos. My sister blowing out candles on a giant cake. My parents beaming beside her, Ryan giving a toast. The caption: "Celebrating the only one worth it." Those 6 words shattered whatever hope I'd been clinging to. I lay there, staring at the glow of my phone, tears slipping silently down my cheeks. I had saved lives in that very hospital, held strangers' hands as they fought through pain, comforted grieving families. Yet when it was my turn, my own family chose tiramisu and champagne over me. I thought about childhood birthdays forgotten, graduations brushed aside, my achievements dismissed. This wasn't a one-time oversight. This was the truth I'd been too scared to face my whole life. To them I didn't matter. Not enough to leave a dinner. Not enough to miss a toast. Not even enough for a "we're coming." And that realization hurt more than the accident itself. At 1 a.m., I couldn't hold it in anymore. I typed into the group chat, "Glad you're all having fun. Don't worry about me. I'll survive. Lone. Like always." For a long time there was silence. Then finally a notification pinged. My mom had replied, "Emily, stop being dramatic. Lily's night is important. You'll be fine. Don't ruin this for her." My hand went cold. I read the message over and over until the words blurred with my tears. Not only had they abandoned me, they wanted me to stay quiet about it. To them, my pain was an inconvenience. My accident was less important than my sister's birthday cake. That was the moment something inside me broke. Lying awake in the hospital, I didn't sleep that night. How could I? My ribs screamed every time I moved, but the real agony was in my heart. I kept replaying memories in my head. The times I'd rushed to Ryan's games, cheering until I lost my voice. The nights I stayed up late helping Lily with her homework. The weekends I spent babysitting her so my parents could go out. All the times I had been there for them. And now, when it was my turn, they chose to leave me alone in a sterile hospital bed, surrounded by strangers. Felt small, forgotten, worthless. But somewhere in that endless night, another feeling began to take root. Anger. Not the kind that makes you lash out. The kind that simmers. The kind that tells you, enough is enough. By the time the morning sun filtered through the blinds, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. If my family could abandon me at my lowest moment, then they weren't my family at all. And from that moment on, I promised myself I would never beg for their love again. The next afternoon, I was discharged from the hospital. My coworker Jenna, the nurse who had sat with me the night before, drove me home because of course no one from my family showed up. As we pulled into the parking lot of my apartment building, my phone buzzed again. The family group chat lit up with messages and photos. They were at brunch, smiling, laughing, plates of pancakes and mimosas. And not a single one of them had asked if I made it through the night. I stared at the screen for a long time before my anger boiled over. My fingers flew across the keyboard. "You left me in the hospital. You didn't care if I lived or died. Don't ever call me family again." For a moment the chat went silent. Then Ryan replied, "God, Emily, you're so dramatic. You always want to be the victim." Then Lily chimed in. "We can't drop everything every time you get a scratch. You're fine. Get over it." And finally my mom. "Enough. Don't ruin the mood. Lily deserves to enjoy her weekend without your guilt trips." That was it. Final straw. I felt a strange calm wash over me as I read those words. Because in that moment I realized there was nothing left to save. The turning point. Choosing myself. For years, I had bent over backwards to earn their love. I had tolerated being overlooked, forgotten, pushed aside. I had told myself, it's just how families are. It doesn't mean they don't care. But now I saw the truth. They didn't care. And they never would. That night I deleted the family group chat, blocked their numbers, closed the door on the people who had left me bleeding and alone. It wasn't an easy decision. Part of me still craved their approval. Part of me still longed for the family I wished I had. But I knew if I kept clinging to them, I would keep breaking myself into smaller and smaller pieces just to fit into their world. I deserved better. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Healing from my injuries was painful enough. Healing from the betrayal was even harder. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I'd made a mistake, wondering if maybe I really was too dramatic, too sensitive, too needy. But then I'd remember lying in that hospital bed, staring at their smiling faces on my phone screen while I fought through the pain alone. And I knew. No, I wasn't the problem. They were. Slowly I began to rebuild. My co-workers became like a second family, checking on me, bringing me meals, sitting with me during my recovery. Neighbors I barely knew offered to pick up groceries. Jenna visited often, always reminding me, blood doesn't make family. Love does. And she was right. I started therapy. I poured my energy into my job, into helping patients who needed someone to stand by them when they felt forgotten. In a strange way, my family's neglect gave me a new purpose, to be the kind of support for others that I had never received myself. Final confrontation. Closing the door. About 2 months later, I ran into my parents at the grocery store. They looked surprised to see me, as though I'd been the one who disappeared. "Emily," my mom said sharply, "why haven't you been answering our calls?" I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Because I don't owe you my time anymore." She frowned. "Don't be ridiculous. We're family." I shook my head. "No. Family doesn't leave you alone in a hospital bed. Family doesn't tell you not to ruin dinner when you almost die. Family shows up. And you didn't." For the first time in my life, I saw her speechless. My dad tried to mutter something about misunderstandings, but I didn't let him finish. "I'm done," I said simply, and I walked away. It wasn't easy. My legs trembled as I left the store, but my heart felt lighter than it had in years. Lesson. Speaking to the audience. Now, months later, I look back on that night in the hospital as both the worst and best moment of my life. Worst because I realized how little I meant to the people I once loved most. Best because it forced me to stop chasing love where it didn't exist, and start building a life where I am valued, respected, and cared for. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever begged for scraps of love, if you've ever wondered if maybe you're the problem, let me tell you, you're not. You're not too much. You're not too needy. You're not unworthy. The wrong people will never give you the love you deserve. That doesn't mean you don't deserve it. Just means you have to stop knocking on the wrong doors. I lost my family that night. But in a way I also found myself. And for the first time I know I am enough just as I am. So now I want to ask you, what would you have done in my place? If your family abandoned you in a moment of crisis, would you forgive them? Or would you walk away like I did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and your stories remind me that none of us are truly alone. And if you found something in my story that resonated with you, if you've ever felt invisible but kept going anyway, please take a second to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Because maybe, just maybe, my story will help someone else realize their worth too.